Hi everyone, welcome to the Quick Start Basics, the 10 core commitments, and tonight is number 8, attend all monthly regionals. So glad you are here. We have some cool things to share with you, and we're so happy to sit with you every week and bring you these basics, these fundamentals that have proven to grow your network marketing business. They've been proven for decades. Tonight, our goal is to equip and empower you to build a strong and profitable network marketing business. Of course, we are here to help people grow, to educate and empower entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. Let's look at what's coming up. We invite you to take your paper and pen for the whole class, of course, but especially right now to see what's coming up this coming week. As you know, we have the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show Monday through Friday, noon Eastern Time. And Jeff and I come on and we teach one of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. This has changed my life, let alone changed my business. Tomorrow Monday is law number 21, the law of legacy, and that means that you think much bigger than yourself and what you're going to leave behind you, how you're going to train people. This is so much applies to network marketing and duplicating ourselves. So that will be tomorrow, noon Eastern Time on Jeff's or my page. A whole lot of you are jumping on there. We just love seeing you on there every day too. If you haven't yet joined the Facebook group, the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show Facebook group, you can do that. And when you do, you can request a free ebook to follow along with that, the 21 laws. We go over and over them. This will be our 10th month of going over the laws. We tell new stories and angles each time. And we have been getting a lot of reports from people that it is deepening their life and their business. Now on Wednesday, we take a deeper dive into an inner circle experience of leadership within the school. This is a class within the school called MLM Leadership University. And a good number of you are in that inner circle already. We are covering one of John Maxwell's books a month. Right now we're on this big fat book called the Complete 101 Collection. And y'all have got to read it by this Wednesday. No, this is like 4 books within one. And the one that we're on this coming Wednesday is Equipping, chapters 1 through 4, for those who are in that class. And if you want to know more information about that class, just private message me and I'll send you a link. Because guess what? You as Quick Start Basics members get a discount on that class. So it is really, really good. I think it's my favorite thing we've done so far. And love to have you join us too. Now every Tuesday, we do a Facebook Live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Jeff and I get on and teach one lesson in network marketing. A lot of you are joining us on that too. This coming Tuesday is going to be the best closer to use. Being a network marketing teacher and a curator of the best methods out there, I gathered I was teaching people about 30 ways to close and just said, I just use one. Okay, that's simpler. That's much more duplicatable than me being real thorough and all that. So the best closer. If you don't know it yet, you might want to hop on and join us and learn that too. Now, just in case you may already know this, but in the past, we talked about an event coming up in Chicago, May 3rd to 5th. And if you didn't know already, that has been moved. We have yet to announce the date and the time of the next event, but I just want to let you know that. And if any of you have bought live stream tickets or local tickets, then just message Jeff and he'll take care of you about that. And let's see, the 10 core commitments, I'm just going to read them to you. That's what this class is. And tonight we're doing number 8, and it adheres all 10, so you can get an overview about it, about what you're learning here and what you can teach your team. Number 1, get started right. Number 2, be here a year from now. Number 3, personal development. Number 4, market daily. That's where you use your favor script. And number 5, present daily. That's where you use your 10-minute presentation. And number 6, attend a weekly presentation. Some people call it an open house. Number 7, attend a weekly core training, which you're doing right now. Number 8, attend a monthly regional, which we're covering tonight. That's our topic tonight. Number 9, attend all company conventions. And number 10, create a massive monthly action plan. And by the way, the number 3, personal development, where you can get that real easy is just join us on those Facebook lives every Monday through Friday. That's probably why a lot of you are on there, right, to get in your number 3 every day. You do your personal growth, your personal development every day. So we go over these each week in a different angle, different depth, different stories, because repetition is the mother of success. It's still the basic principles been proven for decades. So we teach one of them every week. We dive deep into that one. And we have a certification. We have a certificate for you when you've completed all 10, either attending live like this or by replay. So message me, private message Bess, when you have completed all 10, you know, on the class or watching the replays, and we have a certificate for that level. There are 10 levels of certificates in all, and Jim Bailey just told us before we put on the recording that this class completes his level 3. He is the first one to reach that. Congratulations, Jim. You're such an average student and a faithful student, and you're putting it into action in your business. Congratulations on your success in your business. So this is for you to keep track of and just let me know, and then we love if you take a picture with it and post it in the MLM Millionaire Club group so we can congratulate you for that. This class is 90 minutes. At the end of the 90, then we'll turn the recording off and we'll have open questions and answers, and that's where we love to hear your favorite takeaway. So if something strikes you as, man, this thing I'm going to put into action in my business this week, make a little note, because at the end we want to hear what's important to you, and it's also a good summary for us to hear that too. That's also the time, after the recording is off, that's a good time for we can take any questions, do any open coaching, and we also like to hear your tips and insights about what we've talked about, so you can add to the pool of knowledge at that point, contribute at that point. We also love when you contribute to the Facebook group. Some of you are posting cool things there. We just love that. Thank you very much. And Jeff, over to you.
Okay, guys, we're going to hit 2 different things tonight that I think would be really important. You know, tonight, focus is attending a monthly event. And I was having a conversation earlier with someone I physically work with that's on part of my team, and we were talking about one of the team members and what we could do to help them. And I said, you know, our job is really to encourage people to move forward, to grow, and to attend events. I said a lot of times the more we physically try to instruct people, and that's what we all try to do in the beginning, it's like, oh, I can help because I've been there, and we try to instruct people or tell them what they need to do, even if they're physically asking for the answer, we're kind of messing up. And I don't know if you've ever, you know, you have somebody call you and they want the help, and then you tell them everything, and then it seems like you're farther apart, you're more distanced apart from them, and you're like, what the heck just happened? And a lot of that has to do with, you know, understanding personalities. There's so many different lessons that I physically got from attending larger events. And the reason you want to attend an event once a month is you kind of need the inoculation. First of all, the inspiration that it can happen. The inspiration that it can happen is kind of one of the most important things along the way, because basically it shows you that the dream is real. The dream that I think a lot of people had when they first saw network marketing, and you finally went, either heard, you know, on an audio or watched a video or went to a physical seminar, you had this image. And I've talked to a lot of network marketers about this. I said, did you ever have an image of when you believed it would all work out and there would be all these people on your team and you believed the money was going to come in and you believed this was actually going to work for you? I said, have you had that image? And, you know, I found that so many people have had that image that it really has worked, you know, like that in their head. But we lose track of the middle, which is, what does it take to get there? And unfortunately, it takes an enormous amount of work to get there, and everybody goes at their own pace. And if you understand personalities, there's 4 basic dominant personalities. There's a bunch of tests out there, and there's a bunch of books that kind of break this down. Florence Littauer, Personality Plus was the very first book that I was ever introduced to. when she broke down the 4 personalities, and she broke them down from the Latin root meanings, you know, the phlegmatic, choleric, sanguine, and I can't remember the last one off the top of my head, but the 4. And then if you look at, you know, Personality Insights or Dr. Robert Rome, he breaks them down a little bit simpler, DISC, and that's a simpler way to break down the 4 personality types. And I like specifically that one because it's broken down into percentages and things like that. But if you look at how people act coming into anything they do, is those 4 personalities will act very differently, and also those 4 personalities will respond to training very differently. The D comes in, and because the D is used to action, 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 you know, if the process is ready, aim, fire, the D-type personality will basically come in, fire, 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 fire. They're never going to stop to aim, and they're never going to stop to figure anything else out. They're just going to keep moving. And they will fire enough to get the job done, to find the right people, and hopefully, if you're in a great company, the system will take care of everybody else if you're bringing in people who, you know, figure it out and are motivated. The I-type personality, which is the inspirational, you know, fun-loving, you know, looking for friends. Those type of people I find will be like ready, set, talk, 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 and they just keep talking to people. And they're like, I don't understand why this is not working for me. Do you know when the next event is? I didn't even know we had events. Do you know how to log in your back office? I didn't know we had to log in. Did you know that we have paperwork that we can fill out to sign these people? Oh, no, but I've got all these people I talk to, and they're all great. Would you have any other phone numbers? No, I don't even remember. I was talking to them at the bank. There's a bank guy that wants to get in, and there's this guy. And I've had people on my team that are like that have 10, 15, 20 people who want to get signed up, but I can never nail this person physically down to actually go meet those people and sign them up. So there's some people who are going to come in like that, and there's some people that have that I-type personality that they've already been trained or disciplined somewhere else, and they have the skill, and they're like, look, I'm not really good at closing the deal. I'm really good at starting the conversation and getting somebody to an event. So please, please, please follow up with me, follow up with me, follow up with me, and make sure that I know when the events are. And, you know, you have to, this is a person you have to remind the day before, the day of, the hour before, like when the event starts, to be like, oh my God, I'm on my way. That type of person is classically late to everything. But the end result is because they have this enormous group of people they talk to, they do have the ability to influence people. That's why it's called the I-type personality. They have the ability to influence and inspire people, and they're able to bring a lot of people to the events, and they let the events take over. The S-type personality. The S-type personality, a lot of times, will do things a little bit slower. So they start out and they say, ready, 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 I'm kind of ready, I'm sort of ready, I might be ready, let me organize this, let me get this right in my life, let me make sure, I need to have the right feeling that I'm ready. But I think I'm ready. And every conversation you're going to have with this person, they're going to be talking about them getting ready to do something. Set, they kind of don't even get to set. But they're on their way. They're moving. You can't push this person to do anything. And if you do push this person to do anything, the feeling they'll have is that you are using them and abusing them, and most of the time you will blow them out of the business. This person does need direction. This person does need encouragement. This person does need help. The D was dominant, the dominant director, the doer. They don't. Steve asked me a question, so I was just answering that back real quick. So the S-type personality is the slow, sweet, secure. They just do everything in a different pace than everybody else. But some of the best networkers on the planet, just like some of the D's are the best network on the planet, just like some of the I's are the best network on the planet, it's just they network differently. They work at it in a different pace with different people. So the S-type personality will be ready in their own time. all we can do to help our team members that are that S-type is make sure that they're encouraged, that we make sure they have the ticket to the next event. We make sure that we've encouraged them to come. And, you know, my thing is always do like the buddy system. Who can help bring, who can you bring with you? Who's a friend that can join you? You know, who's somebody that you care about that you'd want to come out? And because these people are usually so nice and they don't jump into things so quickly, it's usually works where this person will be able to influence somebody else because they're so nice. They're able to ask a friend and say, hey, you know, I never ask for anything. You know, I don't like to ask. You know, I don't like to push people. You know, I don't like to put people in weird situations. They have like 40 reasons why they're asking, and then finally they ask, and they said, we were wondering if you were free, maybe kind of sort of this next weekend. It'd be great if you could join me. And the person, you know, that they're talking to is their friend who's an I, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to meet people. Yeah, I'll go. And you didn't have to say all that other stuff, but that person was going to come anyway the minute you mentioned, hey, there's going to be like this reception party at the beginning, and you get to meet a bunch of people, and I'd love for you to see what I'm doing. And I'm going to introduce you to some cool people. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest thing ever. And you just want to make sure that they're in line and they're coming out. Then we have the C-type personality. The C-type personality stands for like cautious, calculating, cognitive. These are the deep thinkers. These are the analyticals. These are the engineers. These are the mathematicians. It has to make sense. It has to have facts. Not too many facts. But this is the person that when you start telling stories in the seminar, they're like, can we cut the crap and just get to what we're talking about? I don't need to hear any inspiration. Does this work? Who built it? You know, who's in the background? Why does it work? Where does it work? When? Like, they have some really, they'll ask questions that I didn't even know to think about asking these types of questions. But I always know when I run into this person because they will ask a question that I've never heard before, and I'll be like, okay, now I know who I'm talking to. But if it's, you know, ready, aim, fire, this is the type of person that will be like, ready, aim, 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 aim. I mean, they just, and they'll run, watch this, they'll run 6 million scenarios of how this possibly should work out. Every possibility with every person. They're running multiple, you know, ideas back and forth of how this should work out, and will it work out, and could it work out, and when it would work out. And they're people that are, what I say is they're in their head a lot. They're actually having these conversations in their head that nobody else can hear, but they expect us to understand what the hell they're talking about in a lot of cases. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's a lot of fun to listen to you kind of run through this because that's interesting. I don't think like that. But I love these people because they're also the devil's advocates. That's their job. That's their job in life, is they play devil's advocate to every single thing that happens, every single thing they do. They're very methodical. Typically, they're minimalists in a lot of cases. They don't like a lot of flash or stuff. And you can always tell, like, who's who. If I run into a D-type personality, whether male or female, you can always tell because they're usually dressed very sharp. All of their clothes fit and are fitted in a lot of cases. They like designer things. They like things that match. They like solid, powerful colors usually. You're not going to find a lot of pattern and a lot of wild stuff. These are people who just lay it out, you know, and they show up like ready to go, and they usually have a level of intensity to what they do, how they talk. I mean, you can just, when you run into these people, you usually know right away. And they're get-to-it people. They're like, if you're telling a story about a bunch of craziness that has nothing to do with the point, they're most likely going to cut you off and say, okay, what are we doing here? Like, where are we going? When are we going? We need to make this happen now. Let's get to a point, land the plane, quit circling. The I-type personalities are much more likely to be what we call flamboyant. They would wear brighter colors. They would wear more lively stuff. They're the ones that, you know, I have friends that they'll show up and I'll be like, I didn't even know they made jeans in that color, let alone could you get a shirt, tie, hat, wristwatch, bandana, scarf, all to match that at the same time. But that's the kind of thing that they'll do. They're much more out there. They're willing to risk because they want to be noticed. They like to be out there in front of people. Nothing has to match. And not only does nothing have to match and nothing really has to go together. It could be 10 different styles, all on the same person. Usually pretty interesting. Jewelry is very interesting for these people usually. They're also very forgetful. They'll forget that the meeting is that day or that weekend. They bought a calendar, but they can't find it. If you're one of these people, you're laughing because you're like, I know it's exactly what's going on right now. The S-type personality is usually more calculated. They're more conservative in how they do everything. Their objective is they don't want to offend. They don't want to be seen in the wrong light. They don't want to come across too strong or too much, would I say. They don't want to be too revealing, so usually they're more covered clothing-wise, where the I-type personality might, try to show off. If they have those attributes, they're going to try to show off. The C-type personality is going to be, again, your minimalist. They don't care about necessarily name brands. They care about good deals. They're like, oh my gosh, I got this. Like, I have this friend of ours that, I kid you not, if I called him right now and we met up, I bet I could guess one of the 4 outfits he would wear. And I've known him for 15 years. I know what he's going to wear based on the temperature because he has that one sweater that he got a deal on in 1984, and it's the same damn sweater that he wore yesterday, the day before. It's been washed so many times we're not even sure what color it is now. And he's got his classic polo. This is a person that buys the khakis. They're not they don't necessarily care if everything fits. It just has to be a deal. If I can get 3 T-shirts, even though one of them might not be the right color, if I can get 3 T-shirts for $1 rather than the nice T-shirt, designer T-shirt for $10, they'll go with the 3, even though they're not going to wear the 1, which is kind of inefficient and it'll bug them. These people a lot of times will have some OCD to everything they do. Everything has to be in its place, in its spot, and it has to go in order. And if you're one of these people, you're laughing right now because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sorry, I have an external heater on in here, and it just hit the point where it's too warm. So, how do we manage these people that are coming on our team? The only thing we can do is, A, become the best version of ourselves to be able to manage these relationships, deal with these people, and our objective is to influence these people to come out to events, to get onto calls like this, to come out to the open house, come out to the weekly training, come out to the regional. What I look for is levels of commitment. Like, it doesn't take a lot of commitment to get onto a phone call. So I gauge kind of how long people will stay in the business based on what they have to do or what they overcome to actually get someplace. So if it's just a phone call, I'm like, okay, they've got, at least they have enough commitment to hear something, and then I'll gauge what's next based on afterwards. I'll ask questions like, well, what did you like best about, that recording? What did you like best about the teleconference that we were on? What did you like best about the webinar? And, I can always tell who I'm talking to based on the first things that they say. If they're an S-type personality, usually they'll compliment something and be like, well, I really like this or that. I know right away if they have instructions on what to fix, it's usually the C-type personality because that's what they do. Their first instinct is to tell you what's wrong, to tell you what they don't like. Like, I met somebody online. I just connected to them for the first time. I'm like, hey, it's great to connect with you. And their first words out of their mouth, or first words on Messenger is, I have a bunch of things that you can change about what you're doing. And I was like, great, that's going to attract a lot of people. And I already know, like, I was looking through their newsfeed. They're like, I'm having a lot of problems recruiting. I'm having a lot of people signing up. I'm having a lot of problems. I'm like, your problem isn't necessarily your technique. Your problem is you're offending people before you ever talk to them, which is really hard to have conversations with people that you're offending before you actually have a conversation with them. They don't want to get on the phone with you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to have conversation. So your issue isn't that you don't know how, you don't know the pattern. You might know the pattern, but you need to learn how to not be a jerk up front, and then things will work out a lot better for you. So that's why, you know, the focus of being and attending seminars that teach you people skills. That's what it really comes down to. It teaches people skills. And what people say is, but I'm okay. I feel good about myself. I don't need to change. But you're offending everybody, and people don't want to be around you. Here's a key sign. If people are never picking up the phone to call you and reach out and talk to you, that's a sign. And for years, I would always have to reach out to everybody I was talking to, and I was like, well, nobody ever calls me. Why? Because I was that jerk. I was one of those people that pointed out what could be improved. Because the D-type personality will do that as well as the C-type. So you have the I-type personality. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, I had such a great time. But what they'll do is they'll focus on one of the stories, like, oh my gosh, you know how that person told that story? I have a story. They always have a story about what happened to them that was better than whatever happened or in the seminar or in the event. And whatever was the last thing that happened to them was the greatest thing that ever happened to them. Let me tell you about the greatest restaurant we just attended. Let me tell you about the greatest person that I just met. Oh my gosh, this just happened to me. And they always have, I mean, they're the ones that have the stories that you just want to sit and listen to. It really is. It's crazy. And then in the end, I'm like, you're done, and then they'll be done with the story and there'll be also something else. So I was like, did that story even have a point to it? Like, what the hell were they talking about? So we talked about the C, we talked about the S, we talked about the I. So the importance of going to events is, what I found is especially when it's couples coming in, the wife will usually gravitate towards one person, and the husband will gravitate towards one person, and you're going to learn from the couple that's speaking. If it's couples, if it's singles, you'll learn from the single. And every month they'll bring somebody different in that has a little bit different personality. Part of my issue is I have ability to see patterns and things that don't make sense and things that don't add up. That's part of why, I guess, I've been good at breaking things down and teaching things, because when things aren't congruent and don't make sense, my brain's like, stop. That's not congruent. That doesn't make sense. Back up and fix it. And until it's fixed, I don't move forward. But once it's fixed, I can move forward as fast as anybody's ever built. Now, I want to go into Think and Grow Rich. We were talking about this last week, and I think this is really good. And this actually comes down to, it says specialized knowledge, personal experience or observation, the fourth step towards riches. There's two kinds of knowledge. One is general knowledge, and most people have general knowledge, and general knowledge isn't worth $1. General knowledge can be looked up by anybody. General knowledge is gossip. General knowledge is hearsay. General knowledge is worthless. Second thing is specialized knowledge. Specialized knowledge, depending on how specialized it is, can be worth any amount of money that somebody's willing to pay for it. It says general knowledge, no matter how great in quantity or variety it may be, is of little use in the accumulation of money. So when we're talking about business, general knowledge isn't worth $1. But it says knowledge will not attract money unless it's organized intelligently, directed through practical plans of action to a definite end of accumulation of money. So when I list out, this is the way to contact somebody, and that contact is going to lead to this way to actually book an appointment, and to book an appointment will lead to this type of presentation. And if you do this type of presentation and use this kind of third-party follow-up, the end result is we're building a logical timeline of what's going to happen, and what happens is I can get people thinking in pictures of what's going to happen, and in the end, if they see it too, they get in. It's kind of a neat trick. I didn't know I even had this until somebody pointed it out, and they're like, that's what you've been doing. So it says, lack of understanding of this fact has been the source of confusion for millions of people who falsely believe that knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. The people who keep telling you knowledge is power are the ones selling you bullshit courses. I mean, let's be real honest. These are the people who are selling you $50, $60, $70,000 degrees that hang on the wall, and then people can't use them to go get jobs. Why? Because it's general knowledge in a lot of cases. I have a general business degree, which basically is not worth the paper that it's written on in most cases. Knowledge is only potential power. It only becomes power when and if it's organized into definite plans of action and directed towards a definite end. Before you can be sure of your ability to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent, you need to require specialized knowledge of service, merchandise, profession, which you intend to offer in return for this fortune. If you need more, you can gain more through the aid of your mastermind group. That's why it's so important. That's why Dan Pena says, show me your friends and I'll show you your fortune. Jim Rohn talks about the 5 people we spend the most time with will basically equal what we make. You can add up the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and your likelihood of making that kind of money is very likely. So it says, the specialized knowledge does not have to be in possession of the person who accumulates the fortune. So basically, you don't have to be the smartest person in the group. You just have to be in that group. Ways to acquire specialized knowledge. Number one, one's own experience and education. That's one way to get this specialized knowledge. Number 2, experience and education available through the cooperation of a mastermind alliance. 3, they said there's colleges and universities. 4, there's public libraries and books. 5, specialized training courses. Knowledge has no value except that which is gained from the application towards some worthy end. So basically what they're saying is no matter what you spent for the training is only valued at what you're able to turn around and gain from it. So if you spent $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 on education and you're only making $30,000, then the knowledge that you spent was $20,000 upside down. You lost money. And it's so funny, like, people come to me all the time and they're like, I don't think I can be in your network marketing company. Like, I actually had a kid tell me this at the very end of a meeting. He's like, well, I can't make that. How much money can you make? How fast will this come in? Because I can't make that much money. I said, well, why can't you make that much money? He goes, well, if I make too much money, they'll take my loans away. And I'm like, okay, well, what's too much money? Like, I can't make more than if I make more than $1,500, like if I made $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, I would lose my student loans. I can't do that. I was like, hold up. How much do you owe? Like, and I went over to the whiteboard, and I wrote down, you know, what he owed. And I said, well, how much is your monthly payment on that? And I said, so you have to make under $1,500, and they'll give you the student loan. But if you made like $3,000, they'd take the student loan away. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I wanted to say some words to him, but I was nice, and I didn't. I said, can you do basic math here? If you owe $500 a month, in these student loans, that's what they're giving you, $500 a month over the course of 4 years. If you're paying $500 a month, which is basically what it equivalent, I think it was $600 a month, and you make less than $1,500, they'll give you the loan. But if you make $3,000, that means you'd have an extra $1,500 to pay the $600 amount anyway, and you'd pay the loan off completely, and you wouldn't have the loans at all. And he kind of like, have you ever seen a dog like in the window? He kind of turn his head, or the cat, and then kind of look at you through the window. And that's what he did. He kind of turned his head, and you could tell the wheels were spinning, but probably not connecting to anything. And I said, in my head, I'm like, please tell me this kid is not in freaking accounting or something. I said, by the way, what's your major? He's like, accounting. I was like, Jesus, help us, please. I said a prayer right there for all of us, in the school system as well. But it says, we have in this country the greatest public school system in the history of the world. One of the strangest things about human beings is that they value only that which has a price. This is why I always constantly talk to people. I mean, this was written hundreds of years ago, over 100 years ago. And if you don't know the book Think and Grow Rich, basically what happened is Napoleon Hill was hired by Andrew Carnegie to go out and interview the 500 wealthiest people on the planet. Andrew Carnegie goes, look, I'm going to make the introduction, but it's your job. I want to know what all these people have in common, and I want to accumulate all the knowledge of the richest people, and I want to put it in one book. So that way, this is the standard, this is the book that if somebody wants to accumulate wealth, they have the ability to read this book, figure out what people are doing and thinking, and they have the ability to accumulate any amount of money that they ever wish to have, and 99.9% of people on the planet will never read this book. But they all want money, which is funny in a way. One of the strange things about human beings is they only value that which has a price. The free schools of America and the free public libraries do not impress people because it's free. The freer it is, the more worthless it is. Where there is no cost, there is no value. There is one weakness in people for which there is no remedy. It is the universal weakness of lack of ambition. And this is what I constantly tell people that I run into in direct sales and network marketing, that if you want this, you have the one thing. If you want this, if you show up, if you keep coming to events, if you keep calling, if you keep asking questions, that's the one thing I can't teach. I can't teach ambition. I can teach all the skills. I can teach the personalities. I know that stuff. I know the right words to use in the right order to get in front of the right people. But if you do not have the discipline to get your butt up and on the phone, I can't help that. That's the one thing I can't do for you. But if you have the ability to get in front of people, if you have the ability, I'll pick up my phone and I'll text as many people as I need to. If you have that, I can teach you everything else. It says both success and failure are largely the results of habits. The problem is that 98% of people, or maybe even 99% of people, have really horrible habits. They have the habit of coming home tired. They have the habit of talking to people who don't have money. They have the habit of thinking and looking at things in limiting amounts, and therefore they come home, they blame the system, they blame where they're at, they blame their boss, they blame that they don't make, it's this big blame list, and in the end that tires and wears out their brain where they're not thinking about their dream, they're not thinking about what they want, and they sit their butt down on the couch and they're tired and they fall asleep watching a brainless TV show. They're watching something called Lost and they're like, I don't understand why I'm losing. The right business associations are either the vital factors of success or failure. So here's where imagination comes in. It says, imagination, the workshop of the mind. This is the fifth step to riches. It can be said that a man can create anything which he can imagine. So here's the interesting thing. All money is created from an idea. All money is created from an idea. You can literally print money out of thin air if you have the right idea. And I challenged this multiple times when I got myself into financial troubles. I was like, wait a minute, you have the ability to print money out of thin air. And that's where money comes from. It comes from an idea. It does not come from possession of stuff or anything else. It comes from an idea. What idea? The problem with most people is most of the ideas that we have in our head are crap. And the ideas are crap because they're put there by school system. They're put there by our friends that don't have good ideas or money. They're put there by the TV shows that we watch that don't have any good ideas or money associated with them. Therefore, we don't come up with these ideas. This is why it's so fascinating to watch kids whose imaginations create everything around them. They can take a stick and dirt and create a play in their head of what's happening. And, we're like, oh, that's so cute. No, that's where wealth comes from. And what we do is we stifle most kids right off the bat and be like, quit daydreaming. Right? Have you ever said, if you've said that to your kids, quit daydreaming and focus on what we're doing, you're literally taking the one thing that will help them accumulate money and stifling it and basically telling them, shut that off and don't use that. That is exactly where all wealth comes from. There are two forms of imagination, synthetic imagination and creative imagination. Synthetic imagination arranges the facts and no emotion, and creative imagination is inspirational creativity. Creative imagination works automatically. It says your imagination becomes weak if not used. What does the school system teach you how to do? Draw inside the lines. Don't make anything up. Stay on the path, and we're going to run you through this process, and if you don't score right, we're going to put you back a year and run you through that process again until we kill this thought process you have for yourself. Don't think for yourself. Don't ask questions out of, it doesn't matter. You have to do this in this order only. And they basically wipe that out of most people. And that's not by accident, by the way. It was by design. Do not hesitate in your study of these principles until you have read the book at least 3 times. So even like inside of him writing this, he's like, guys, you're going to have to go over this material again and again and again for you to understand it. Ideas are the beginning points of all fortunes. Ideas are the products of imagination. People buy titles and not the content of the book. Nowadays, people click on, think about this, people click on Facebook posts based on the title, usually not the content behind it. That's why so many people end up buying programs, Get Rich in 3 Steps. Get Rich in 3 Steps. I can teach you everything in an hour. If that was the case, everybody would be rich already, right? There is no standard price on ideas. It says the creator of ideas makes his own price, and if he gets smart, he gets it. The story of practically every great fortune starts with the day when the creator of the ideas and the seller of the ideas got together and worked in harmony. It says the ideas are intangible force. They have more power than the physical brains that give birth to them. They have more power to live on after the brain that creates them, and then it's basically returned to dust. Organized planning. So this is where it gets really good. It says the crystallization of desire into action, the 6th step towards riches, is how to build plans which will be practical. So this is where a lot of people miss it, is they come into network marketing and they see the dream, right? They want the dream, they want the freedom. They see the product makes sense. The comp plan is a little fuzzy, I get that. The skill needed to build is a little fuzzy. They don't know exactly. And then they're like, you attend so many of these seminars, and all of a sudden, one person says, just send videos. Another person says, say this. Another person says, sit down with people and drink coffee with them at a coffee shop. Another person says, I mean, have you ever felt this way where you've attended meetings and you're like, every single person I've talked to is saying to do something different. So what I've always had to do is I sit and I take all the notes, and I'm like, what are all these people saying in common, though? Like, everybody's doing it a different way, but we talked about in the beginning, everybody has a different personality. So every personality would probably approach this differently. Where some people are super social, they want to meet face-to-face because they want to talk about stories, and they want to wear their new shirt, and they want to be complimented. Other people want to meet, on a golf course because they like to golf. I'm just saying, I'm not a big golfer, but I like to go. Some people like to meet on a golf course because that's what they want to be doing, and they're only going to do business on a golf course because they know for a fact people are going to have their guard down, and they get to seem exclusive on an exclusive course. They're going to go to a private course and invite their friends to a private course and be like, don't worry, I got you. By the way, 80% of high-end business deals that are closed over, I think I read it was like over $10 million. The conversation starts at a sporting event and or on a golf course. And people are like, I just don't like golf. Fine, stay broke. I mean, like, it's cool. Well, I don't like going to high-end restaurants. Stay broke. That's cool. I just want to sit in the backwoods and do my thing. That's cool. But there are books and people basically laying out saying this is what it takes to make this high-end money, and you're like, nope, not me. I'm gonna not do all that. So I just started listening to what was congruent with these people, and I started going, okay, well, I don't necessarily love that, but I could go learn. I could go learn what they're talking about. I'm not a huge sports fan, but I have a general idea of what's going on. When you're completely ignorant, and watch this, when you're completely ignorant to certain things that are going on in the world, and you have zero relatability, you cannot connect. And if you cannot connect with these people, you cannot do business with them. Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And one of the things that gets you to know, like, and trust them is connecting on certain ideas. So for the people who are like, I don't want anything to do with the outside world, you're literally cutting out 80% of the people you could do business with. Financially, not smart. Warren Buffett can have a conversation about a ton of things, but his specialized knowledge is in one area. Now, he probably hasn't watched 25 episodes of Game of Thrones, but I guarantee he probably knows it exists. Before forming your mastermind alliance, decide what advantages and benefits you'll offer the individual members of the group in return for their help. Intelligent people will always want to be compensated, not always in the form of money. Jim's on here, Jim Bailey, and I'm going to pick on you, Jim, for just a second. Certain people are good at certain things, and I'm just going to give an example. One of my original surrogate sponsor inside of a company that I used to work with, him and his wife. His wife was probably the nicest, literally the nicest person I think I've ever met in my life. Also the sweetest, and almost to a fault. She was so scared to offend somebody or to interrupt somebody. She just stood completely silent sometime, and I would have to engage and bring her away from the group just to be able to talk to her. But one of the things she was really, really good at is she was really good at giving and serving. So she would constantly, every time we did a meeting, even though we weren't supposed to, she would bake and cook and bring food, and it was so tasty and good and probably bad for you too. But she connected with people instantly. I've watched Jim Bailey do this, even though I haven't experienced it directly. We started talking about it, and he said, oh, I was able to meet this person at this meeting, and I was able to bring them a jar of natural honey. And the thing is, when you're able to bring somebody something that's natural versus, the stuff that's usually processed and in the store, and they taste it, and you can literally taste the difference, especially when you taste something that's absolutely raw and authentic. The difference is unbelievable, and also the benefits are unbelievable. He's able to connect with people right there, and here's the other thing, is people remember him for that. Certain people here are good with word working. Certain people here are good with, creating stuff. Some people, and I'm going to tell the story of a friend of mine, Josh. I help a lot of people find different things to do for work, because a lot of times people, when I meet them at first, they're in kind of crappy jobs that don't make money, and they're not going in a direction, and sometimes their life is in a weird place. So typically what I've always done is I've looked at them and say, what would this person excel in? What would this person do well in? Based on my evaluation of what I've seen, and I constantly keep telling them, hey, you're going to be able to do good. You're going to be able to do more. You're going to be able to make more, because I see these traits in you. If you only tell a person who they are based on what you see right now, you'll only get a worse version of them. But if you look at a person the way they could be, they typically will become what they should be, because people who consistently compliment them, they'll usually rise to the expectation of those people that they respect. It works with kids too, by the way. So I met Josh, and Josh basically comes to me, and he's in a situation where he basically has lost a car. His car basically broke down after 10 years and 290,000 miles or something on this car he had. And he was contemplating going to work with his dad inside this warehouse at $10, $11 an hour. And it was 6 days a week. The warehouse was unheated and uncooled. So during the summer, it was plus 130, 140. And during the winter, it could be negative 30 in there. But it was a metal shop, so that's what metal shops do. They don't need heat and cool and blah, 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 blah. So I had him describe the job to me, and you could tell his whole demeanor dropped as he told me about this. And I'm like, okay, that's one thing that you could do. I said, but I'm sure that you have, I said, I know that you're gifted. I know that you're smart. I've had conversations with you. You can communicate with other people. People like you. which is key. That's good. I said, but I know there's probably a bunch of other things you can do. I said, before you take this job, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take out a piece of paper, and I want you to write down every single thing you've ever done to make money, and anything that you've ever done, like project hobby-wise, that you've done that's made, even if it hasn't made money, if you really, really like doing it. And I'm like, I don't care if it's raking the leaves. If you like doing it, write it down. I don't care if it's cleaning up the cleaning up the trash in the back. I don't care if it's gardening. Write it down. And I'm like, if you don't come up with 50, don't call me back. Because then I know he's, if somebody writes down 50 things, I know they're serious. So he writes down 50, he calls me back, and we meet at Steak and Shake, and I'm going through the list, and we go through the list, and we finally hit this one, and I was like, well, what is this one right here? What does it say? Resumes. What does that mean? He goes, well, and remember, this is like 2010, 11, 12, when the economy has collapsed. And one of his specialized skills that he was really good at, he was able to write resumes for people. And I said, well, why are you good at writing resumes for people? He goes, well, resumes today aren't based off the person. They're based off the keyword. And I was like, hold up, let me get out my notebook. What the hell do you mean? And he goes, well, resumes are based on keywords. So if I'm looking at a manufacturing job, and the manufacturing job is talking about presses and talking about, molds and talking about this, that, and the other thing, you have to list those keywords in the resume for the computer system to basically pull that one out for somebody to look at. I was like, holy crap, I didn't know it was that special. He goes, you can't have one resume. You have to write a different resume for every job you apply to. I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, that's the way it works now, because it's all computer driven. It's all done by analog. It's all done by algorithms of choosing and picking out these different words. And I was like, what you just told me is more valuable than you going to that warehouse for the next decade. I said, do you have any idea what people would pay to know what you just said to go find a job? I'm like, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go on Craigslist, and I want you to go on Google, and I want you to look up what people are charging who write resumes for a living. I said, I know from being around a lot of people that writing is not a skill that a lot of people have or like. Even if you can write, most people who know how to write don't like doing it. So I'm like, I know that if you like doing it and you're good at it, that people will pay a lot of money for that. So he goes and researches it and calls me back. He said, well, at the high end, it's like $300, and there's a couple people that charge $30. So I said, how many people did you research? And he's like, I don't know, like 40 or 50. I said, read me off all the numbers of what they charge. And I added up all the numbers, and I divided by the number of people that he had added up, and we came out with an average. I said, now, if you charge the average, you're going to be in the middle. I said, but if you're really good and you charge a little bit less, what you can do is make up in numbers what you lack in cost. I said, you want a bunch of people to know who you are, and as you start placing these people, we're going to start putting online that we found them a job. And I'm like, that's going to drive traffic like mad, because when in a down economy, if you have the ability to help find people better jobs and they're giving testimonials, they're like, oh my gosh, I met this person, they helped me fix their resume. I mean, do you see how powerful this is? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, let's say you charged $70 to do the resume. Not an hour, just $70 to do the resume. It's under $100. What would that be worth to the average person? And he's like, yeah, that'd be huge. I said, now, somebody's going to figure out a way to come up with $70. If they're not good at writing, I said, now we have to have a pitch and everything. I said, so what I want you to do is accumulate kind of a way to pitch this, look it up and bring it back, and we're going to write it up, and we're going to write up the perfect, kind of like the perfect presentation, right, that we always talk about in this class. Same thing. That's what you need to do. He's like, okay, I got it. Later that night, I get this text from him, and he's like, hey, go look at this website. I'm like, okay. So I click on the website, and basically it is a dynamic WordPress blog website that has motion. It has motion going across. So when you first log on, literally the header screens with 3 different things, and it was like you know, do you want to write the perfect resume? And the next one was like, you know, we've got a 3-step system to do that. The next one was like less than everything else. And then I look down through all the categories, and I pick up the phone, I call him, and I'm like, Josh, whatever it costs to get the person who did this website to copy it, this is exactly, I mean, this is really, really well done. You know, we need to find this person. We need to call. I'm like, can you, you know, and this is just because I knew basic stuff about website. I said, can you open up the code and find out who wrote it and who put it together? He goes, well, yeah, I already did. I know who put it together. He's like, I was like, okay, well, we need to get, like, tomorrow we need to call him. He's like, no. I put this together. I was like, what do you mean you put this together? He's like, this is mine. This is my website. And I was like, wait a minute. I left you at like 5 hours ago. So in between the 5 hours, you like learned how to build websites and you built this? He's like, no, I've been building websites for a long time. I was like, where the hell was that on your list? He's like, oh, I don't have any. Here's what he said. I don't have a degree in that. I was like, nobody who needs a website cares if you have a degree. They care if you can produce what you just produced. I said, off the top of my head right now, I know 3 people who need a website. Like right now. Have you done any other websites? He's like, yeah, I have like 6 or 8 of them that I've done. One is for a political thing that I did, you know, for school, and I just kept it going. And another one's for fun, and then I did one for a friend, and I was like, let me see the rest of them. And I looked, and all of them were as good, if not better, than the one he just built. And I called him back and said, look, we need to meet, like, right now. So we met up, again, at Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake is kind of like a late-night diner that serves hamburgers, French fries, and milkshakes, and it's super bad for you, but it's awesome to meet there late at night and talk and have bad food. So we do that every once in a while. Met him up, walked through, and I'm like, show me these websites. I was like, how did you learn how to do this? He's like, well, it's pretty simple, you know, YouTube and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, there's nothing simple about this. Like, I've taken classes in it, and I basically know in theory what to do, but you actually physically know how to open up a template. I said, is this a custom template? I was smart enough to ask some questions I knew. I was like, is this a custom template, or is this a bought template? He's like, no, it's custom. I was like, do you have any idea what this skill is worth? And he's like, I'm like, it's worth a hell of a lot more than working in a warehouse, and it's worth way more than writing resumes. I'm like, people spend thousands of dollars for this to be done. And if you have, if you just told me you knew how to do it, it's one thing, but you have proof that you've built all these other functioning websites. And then he started talking to me about SEO. For those of you who don't know what SEO is search engine optimization. So basically, there's 2 ways to get ranked on a Google, on Google. 2 ways to get ranked. One is you can buy the position. You can spend money and basically be at the top, but depending on what you're doing, it usually costs a fortune. Like, you have to be almost a Fortune 500 company to be the top guy in these categories. Or what you can do is you can do it through what they call organic reach, search engine optimization. And what that means is you basically have put out 10,000 different pieces of content that all link back to that one site. And Google recognizes that there are 10,000 different things all pointing at this one site, and it starts raising it in the search engine. He not only knew how to do it, but knew how to do it in detail. And I was like, that skill is worth even more than the website itself. I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make a couple phone calls. And I said, if I open the door, the only thing that I ask you, because I'm putting my reputation on the line, is that whatever you say you can do, you can actually do and you can complete it. Because if you can't say and you can't do it, you can't complete it, it comes back on me, and that doesn't make me look bad in one instance. It makes me look bad with a lot, because these are people that I'm going to introduce you to that have influence. He's like, okay, cool. And I said, and what I want to do is I want you to give this person a deal. I mean, like, super deal. I said, and I know they've already lost money because they paid somebody $1,000, and I pulled up what the website looked like, and the first words out of his mouth are, well, that looks like crap. That was built with blah, blah, blah program. The color's wrong. He's like, it doesn't even function right. The links are bad. I'm like, I know. I told her the same thing. I told her it wasn't right, but I don't know how to fix it. Do you know how? She's like, yeah, I know how to fix it. I said, okay. What I want you to do is I'm going to call her, and we're going to work out a deal. And I said, I want you to give her, like, the huge Josh hookup and do it for, like, I'm like, what would be a good week right now? He's like, oh, my gosh, if I could make $400. I'm like, great, 6. I'm like, we're going to do it for $5.99. I said, but we're going to give her, if it's 6, we're going to give her basically a 66% discount. It should be worth $1,800 to $2,000. Like, think that number, that's what you're going to do, but you're only going to charge $600 for it. He's like, all right, I think I can do that. How long would it take you to do this website? A week, a couple days, maybe 2-3 days. He goes, I think you should do a calendar, and I think you should do this, and I think you should do that. And he's like, and I'll rank it in Google, and I'll rank it on Yelp, and I'll rank it on Yahoo, and I'll rank it on... I was like, oh my gosh, you know how to do all that too? He's like, yeah. I made the phone call, put him on the phone. They're like, she's like, yeah, I need it like yesterday. She's like, $600? She's like, if you would have told me $1,200, I would have written you a check. He looked at me like, I was like, see, we're onto something here. He did that website. That website worked out. He completely crushed it. It was amazing. That led to the next website, led to the next website. He made more over the next 5 weeks than he probably would have made over the next 5 months working in the warehouse. And that launched him into the business. Today, he runs a company called JR Marketing. I think he has something like, the last time he told me, he goes, Jeff, if I have one more client, I literally have all this outsourced now. I don't have to go to work. All the bills are paid just off the SEO. And I'm quoting this bank or this financial institution, this website that was like $30,000, I don't know, it's a lot of money, like 30 grand to build this one website for this one company. Now here's another thing. You think you have to have specialized tools. He was working this off of a laptop that literally had to be plugged in at all times because the battery had died on it, and he was just like, the computer was barely running. Like, it took forever for it to load. He could only load one basic application at a time to do something. So if he was trying to be online and put artwork together, he had to close online and open it. So eventually I said, you know, this is where you have to take some of the money and invest. You need to go get a laptop that is more like this century decade. You know, it can't be running off of DOS. And that's a computer joke, by the way. I said, you got to come up to speed. You know, Windows 98 is like way old, and I don't know what program you're running here, but it looks like garbage, and you need to upgrade. So he did, and Josh is a C-type, like he's a deep thinker and engineer, so everything's about efficiency and saving money, and I'm like, but when you're sitting down with clients and you want to close clients at $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, they're going to judge you based on what you look like when you show up, and they're going to judge you based on what? The laptop you're walking in on. Just like if you're in network marketing, they are going to judge you based on how you show up and what you're walking in with. So it does matter, especially if you want to build big. Now, if you want to make $300, totally different scenario. But this story of Josh was to point out a couple points. Is number one is you have to see people for where they can be, not where they're at. You have to ask enough questions to figure out what people are good at. This is beyond coaching. This is beyond coaching. This is mentorship. This is working with people long term. Being able to pick out where people could really be at and then helping them achieve that. And sometime I'm going to bring Josh on so you can actually hear Josh tell this story because Josh is back at it in the networking game just recently. When I got started again, I was like, hey, we should do this. And he's like, yeah, I know we should. But he was going through some stuff. But it'd be really good to hear it from him. So back to specialized knowledge. Sorry, I think I delete. Oh, I did. Think. And. Are we good for 5 more minutes? Bess? And then I'll turn it over. I hope people aren't going, what does this have to do with... So we're talking about imagination. One man's an idea can change the world. Gates, Jobs, Charles Schwab, autosuggestion. So autosuggestion, the means by which influencing the subconscious mind, the third step towards riches. Autosuggestion is a term which applies to all suggestion and is self-administered stimuli through one's mind and the five senses. So I don't want to go into a lot of work with autosuggestion because it's deep. But he talks about all these auto-suggestions. Tony Robbins talks about this. I think I talked about this on one of the calls about personal development, about incantations, and how Tony would repeat this one thing over and over and over again and basically built it into a subconscious where the minute he starts moving, he can start reciting this, and it basically invigorates his whole body because your body runs your mind, so you can kind of get in activity mode and it starts working. Specialized knowledge, personal experience or observation, the fourth step to riches. And we talked about the two kinds of knowledge. The greatest follower has the ability to become the greatest leader the most rapidly. This is good. This is where following somebody in business is so important. It says, so the greatest follower has the ability to become the greatest leader the most rapidly. Attributes of leadership. It says unwavering courage based on knowledge of self and one's occupation. That's called confidence. Self-control. The man who cannot control himself cannot control others. That's why, and this is, you know, I've always picked this out, I look for people who work out. I try to recruit people who are already athletes. Because it takes a certain amount of discipline to work out. It takes a certain amount. Like if you work out and you eat well, do you know how freaking hard that is on a regular basis with the amount of stuff that gets sold to all of us? Three, a keen sense of justice without a sense of fairness and justice. No leader can command and retain the respect of his followers. So you have to have justice, period. And what he says is justice without a sense of fairness and justice. Not everybody can win every time. This theory of the participation word at school where everybody wins, the idea where both teams play and everybody gets a trophy is really hurting people because the people who know that they didn't win, it shows psychologically that their self-esteem actually goes down when they get the trophy because they know they didn't deserve it or win it. And it hurts the people who do win because they don't want to run at a higher level because there's no point. They're not getting anything for it. But this is something that's creeping its way into everything that's going on. And you got to be careful. Definiteness of decision. The man who wavers in his decision shows that he's not sure of himself, cannot lead others successfully. This happens all the time. Well, I'm just not really sure what I should do, and I'm not really sure where I should go. And the problem is you're telling your prospect this. They're hearing these words come out of your mouth. They start hearing, and you can always tell somebody who's unsure of themselves because they talk about kinda, sorta, maybe. That'll come out in conversation. I can tell within 3 minutes of talking to somebody where they're at, where their self-conscious is at, where their interior is at, by the words that they're using, and you'll always hear those words. Well, I'm thinking, kind of, sort of, maybe, I don't know. And if you're doing that, it's okay. You can change it. That's how I started. That's where I was at. I was trying to figure it out, and it was basically coming out in every conversation I had. How do you fix it? Being around people who are confident, who can help straighten out. You don't know the order to put it in, and they're like, this is the order to put it in. Have a notebook with you, write it down, go over it again and again, and you'll start building confidence because after you go through it once and it works, you'll start building confidence. Oh, I can do this. 5, definiteness of plans. You have an exact plan of what's going to happen. 6, the habit of doing more than what you're paid for. You cannot have the mentality of, that's not my job. You cannot have the mentality of, well, I've been doing this for a while. They should set it up for me. There is no entitlement in success. The more you need entitlement, the less successful you'll be. Always have the habit of doing more than what you're paid for. 7, a pleasing personality. Nothing will ruin your team faster than drama and bullshit. Nothing. You could be the smartest person in the world, but if every time we're around you, the car's broken down and the house is on fire and your friends have this problem and that person has that problem and you're talking about it with people, you basically should hold up a sign that says, run away from me, success is not here. And that's hard. You'll find that the most successful people have some of the worst things happening to them, and you have no idea they're going through it because they're not going to talk about it with everybody. That is reserved for an after-meeting conversation, one-on-one with select friends. At the very end of the day, isolated. 90% of the people never get to hear about that. They do not know. And I'm going to give you guys an example that is like as clear as day, but I've had several people we've lost over the last like 3-4 weeks. One of which my sister OD'd. She died. Somebody I grew up with. It was drugs. She'd have a history of this, and I got a text. I got a text while I was at the convention. So I'm sitting there Saturday night when we're supposed to be jamming, and I'm supposed to go, like, I got the text right before I was asked to talk in front of a group of people. I mean, you talk about having to check yourself and where you're at. Okay, how do you put this on the back burner? Because obviously when something like that happens, like every single thought of every good thing and bad thing, like floods your mind and it takes over. My friend Josh, the reason I'm probably talking about him specifically is he lost his mom, one of my good friends. That happened within the last 3 weeks. How many people knew about this? Probably nobody here. I'm only bringing it up here because this is the stuff you guys start out conversations with, and you ruin the ability to move forward because people are not attracted to death, destruction, drama, etc., etc. The more you discuss it and the more you talk about it, the more you push people away, because what it does is it brings up bad feelings in other people. You're missing, you're hurting, and they start missing and hurting, and they don't like that feeling. It's really, that's the stuff that's hard. Using the favor script, that's easy. Showing up to a call, that's easy. It's dealing with life and this other stuff that's hard, and knowing when and who you need to share it with. 8, sympathy and understanding. It actually should be empathy and understanding, but sympathy and understanding is how he wrote it. 9, mastery of detail. Mastery of detail is not just saying it, but the tone you use, the volume you use, and the speed you use. Say it again in a different way. And people are like, oh, I just said it. You said it in a way, and the tone and the speed you used identifies that you're not interested. Change the tone, change the speed, change the volume, and you change the meaning of what you just said. 10, willingness to assume full responsibility. I don't care what happens. I will fix it. I don't care whose fault it was. I will fix it. 11, cooperation. Getting people to work together, this is really key, especially today. Getting people to work together that have 2 completely different political views. Getting people to work together that have 2 completely work ethic views. Now, I mean, I don't have near the problem working with people outside the country that I do inside the country. And I'm talking about the country we're in because I know we have people attending from other places. 2 forms of leadership. The first type of leadership with sympathy and understanding of followers. The second type of leadership is leadership by force. So I was taught early on, you can lead by fear or you can lead by friends. I'm going to tell you, if you want long-term business, you have to lead by friends, and that's the harder of the two. And that's why we built Leadership University, to teach those lessons. I'm going to read this last list and then turn it over to Bess. It's 10 major causes of failure in leadership. Number 1, the inability to organize details. You're all over the place and unorganized and a mess, and you can't get through what you're supposed to get through, and you're jumping around and all over the place, especially when you're presenting. Automatically, you lose people. Unwillingness to render humble service. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring this out. And I'm talking about me. Like, I am still learning. I'm still listening to trainings. I'm still reading the books. I have a whole list behind me. My biggest problem is that I run out of time and energy to read and study everything that I want to and build. 3, expectation of pay for what they know instead of what they do with what they do with that which they know. So expectation of pay for what they know instead of what they do with what they know. Does this make sense? So this is the person that wants to charge a bunch of money because they went to a seminar and they know how to say it, but they've never done it. 4, fear of competition from followers. My thing is this fear of competition from your own team. A lot of us are in companies where people can pass us. And I've watched people drop out, and I've watched people say crazy things to their team, and I'm going to use the word downline, but I'm going to say they're going to say crazy things to their team and downline because they don't want them to succeed, because if they succeed and pass them, they won't make money off them for a short period of time. 5, lack of imagination. 6, selfishness. 7, greed or overindulgence. 8, disloyalty. 9, forcing the me factor, authority, no decisions by anyone else but me. Hey, don't say anything, do anything without, 9 was forcing the me factor. And 10, emphasis of title over production. Well, I have the title, so I'm the one that has to say it. No, it's the person who's building right now who's doing it. Guys, over the last 2 weeks, we've covered part of this. I can't remember how many pages this is, but I'm just scrolling through, and this book just goes on and on and on and on and on. And basically what we've covered is basically the first 3 chapters of 13 chapters. And I skipped stuff. So this training by itself changes people. Meaning the Think and Grow Rich. But this is why attending a seminar is so important. It can be one stupid thing that somebody says that gets you to research, that gets you to do, that gets you to hear. Everybody hears something different. Everybody's at a different point. I'm just kind of pointing out overall things that I see people do and stuff that I've gone through because the perspective's a little bit wider because I've built, a little bit bigger. But I sit around and I'll talk to friends of mine that have, one of my friends has 150,000 people on his team. He has a little bit different perspective. I was like, well, I got to 10,000. He goes, so you know this much of the picture, which is this much more of the picture than most people. So with that being said, I'm going to turn this back over to Bess. And
Jeff, that was a pile of info. And want to welcome who has popped on after our recording started, and that is Becky from Canada, and Louis, and James Edcox, and Ignacio. And Dr. Chris says he will have to miss tonight, and he'll catch the replay. So I love the story about Josh because we must believe in people until they can believe in themselves. And you can say, you know, I see you at the event. If you're not coming to the event, to the monthly regional, you're playing small. And you're bigger than that. That's not you. You know, you're a big player. I see you at the events. I see you being a big player. So I love that. I got to meet Josh one time, and I would love to hear him speak too, and I'd love to hear his story. That is a great, great story of entrepreneurship and helping people to see what they are too close to themselves to see. Somebody outside, you as a team leader, in essence, can help people to see strengths that they are too close to themselves. So that could happen a lot on your team. But getting them to the events and the convention, the monthly regionals, helps them begin to see themselves in a different perspective too than even you can. So important, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. If you're at an event and somebody springs something on you, you get devastated for a minute, or you have an emotional reaction to somebody, and you're supposed to speak or do something or help somebody. And at any time, if you are presented with an emotional challenge, this is a technique that I have, is like, okay, my emotions are important. I must do this thing right now. I must speak right now, but my emotions are important. I'm not going to just shove them aside. Pretend I'm gonna say you are important, and I will get to you later. You know, tonight when the event's over, then I will go deep into these feelings of, you know, the person who just died or is having trouble or the thing that needs to be solved. We will take care of you, but we'll do it later. So I take it and I put it up on the shelf and I make a promise to my feelings that yes, we'll get back to you. We'll solve that problem. And I like your point, Jeff, about not laying all the stuff on other people, because when we realize the emotional impact that it has on people, it's like carrying a big weight, and now they've got to carry it or work their way out of it or climb back up or something. You know, these things affect us. You know, bad news affects us, and it can be like somebody just gave me 100 pounds to carry, and now I've got to figure out how to let go of that. You know, so let's be aware. Good points about let's be aware of how what we say affect other people and spare them, unless there's a point to it, unless you need to tell them, or unless you have a story about what you learned from it to inspire it. Then it can be part of your story and part of your speech. So that's what we use our misfortunes for. When we come out the other end, when we see a benefit, when we have a story to tell to inspire other people, then tell that misfortune. Just a little segue. Jeff, when you spoke about sports and golf and Game of Thrones and all that stuff, that is me. I am bad at that stuff. I do not relate to people. I don't care to, but I'm going to try to get better at that. Try to branch into areas that I just prefer not to go into, because, yeah, I'm not relating to half the people in the world that like sports, I guess, or golf or Game of Thrones. And I'm so ignorant of a lot of these things, so I'm shutting out probably half the people. However, I do eat well. I want to put good gas in my car. You know, there's some things I've mastered and some things I just am oblivious to. So Matt Morris says, nothing replaces the power of events. Get people to events, and they'll build a business. Nothing replaces that. And Eric Worre says his strength, you know, that's what he did have. Maybe he was a little bit of an I person or something like that, or the influential, the fun-loving person, but he could get people to events. You know, they said, that's my strength. You know, getting people all fired up and jazzed up, and, oh, you got to get here, you got to get this, this is what you're going to get, and this is what happened to us last time. So that's his strength. He says, learn to promote events, and you don't need to learn anything else. We hope that you learn the other skills too, but he puts that really high, and he calls this the highest paid activity in network marketing. And so late last night, I was up looking at the pictures, the photos of the most powerful women in network marketing, and I saw some of my buddies there, and I felt kind of, you know, lonely that I didn't get to be there and be with them and dance with them and stuff. And Jeff Beebe and Debbie were at this dance, and everybody was wearing 50s clothes, and it looked like so much fun. They were having such a good time, and So that's one thing you can do at events is post the pictures, the fun, the stories, the cool things that happen, how you changed to help get people to future events. By the way, an event like that, or any event like your monthly regional event, that is like free school, you guys. And something to compare that with is I was just reading the other day about the price of college is increasing almost 8 times faster than wages are. And it's like, whoa, students better really do some math before they go to school nowadays. Because the student loan is, my point about this is, compare this to the free training that you get in network marketing with going to your company events. This is all free schooling and free training. Whereas people who go the traditional route of, I'll say a generation ago, and believe that they must get a good schooling and you know, get a student loan and pay it off, and then they'll be good. They'll be set for life. Well, that's changed because previously you could work your way through college and have no debt, or maybe your parents financed that. But student loans now make up the greatest bulk of the U.S. debt that is non-housing. 1.4 trillion is student loans, 0.8 trillion is credit cards, 1.2 trillion is car, and 0.4 trillion is other. Student loans make up the hugest amount, and they're non-forgivable. It's virtually impossible for somebody to graduate. I have seen a few exceptions, but it's virtually impossible now for somebody to graduate without this heavy burden and this heavy loan on them, unless they are a network marketer. And I have a friend Professor David Frost, who used to teach for a number of years, taught a certified network marketing course through a college, the world's first and only certification through a college to get a network marketing degree. And some of his students were making they were in VEMA at that time, and they were making $4,000 a month. They didn't graduate with a student loan. So that is just an example of how to get around that if the person really does want to go to school. But why not just do network marketing unless you really love your chosen profession? You want to be an animal vet or whatever, animal doctor or something like that, or a designer or something like that. Then you want to go to school for doing what you love. But network marketing could finance it. But for a lot of people, it could replace it. And the schooling is essentially free. You know, going to these monthly events, going to these monthly regionals, or going to all your company conventions. So what is the average cost? You know, just compare that with network marketing. Compare. The average cost for a school education is now $80,000. That's for 4 years, double that for private. Plus, you got to figure in the wages that are lost while you're going to school for 4 years. Maybe the parents finance that, or maybe they, you know, work and go to school both. But that's another cost. That is about double normal inflation. I thought it was just a few years ago, and the average school was about 40 or 50. Used to be 30. A school counselor told me. My old high school counselor, when I moved back here to Hays, Kansas, found him now working at the college as an advisor. And he said, boy, it used to be 30. Now the average is 50. I guess that was about 7 years ago, because now the average is $80,000 for a college education. And that's even if they can get a job in their chosen career. A lot of them can't. They end up living at home with their parents, and that delays being able to buy a house and start a family. And a lot of them, or there one lady actually said, I'm never going to get out of debt in my lifetime. You know, no way can a dentist or whatever she got the loan for. I've done the math, you know, and I'm never going to be able to get out of debt in my whole lifetime. And that's just incredible. Another thing that's happening is colleges are closing and leaving students in the lurch. So, and guess what? They don't even finish their contract or the commitment to this. They said that the students can still pay off the loans. This is just insane. So a lot of colleges are going bankrupt, and the students are still liable for the loans. I don't understand that, but these are the dangers of going to school. So just I'm comparing this to help you see how good network marketing can be, how advantageous how cool it is, how wonderful it is that you have the monthly events and the company conventions and that you can attend them. They're still cheaper. Maybe they're not free. You have to pay the ticket or the transportation and the lodging and all that stuff, but that's still much cheaper than $80,000 for 4 years. And this is another market. Talk to millennials. Ask them, before they go to college, think about network marketing. Do they really love that career they're going into? And if they do, okay, but then do they have a way to pay for it? Maybe they'd rather do network marketing, or maybe they'd rather get to use network marketing to pay for their schooling. Now compare, the free education in network marketing, or even compare our school. 4 years in our school, guess what that cost you in the Quick Start Basics that you guys are in this class tonight? 4 years, $1,200. $1,200 versus $80,000. And guess what? There's no ceiling on how much you can make, like there is in a traditional career. And you can do it from anywhere. There's just so many advantages. So prospect millennials, or talk with anybody who's considering going to school or in school. Maybe there's a better way for them. Speaking of schools, they often do shut down the dreaming, like Jeff was talking about. They shut down that imagination. And I was just reading another article about that it isn't how much you know anymore that you're going to really get paid for, because anybody can look stuff up on Google. So if you're going to school, or anybody's going to school, traditional school, to get filled full of facts, maybe some skills, but if you're getting filled full of facts, that's not worth much anymore, because again, you can find it on Google. The thing that you really get paid for is the creative imagination. I was just did a Facebook Live today, and Steve Redden was on there, and he said, how do you recapture your resourcefulness? And I spoke about ways, just like Jeff did, about how they get shut down in childhood. Stop daydreaming, color within the lines, and the creativity gets so shut off. There was a teacher named Sylvia Ashton who wrote a book called Teacher. I just love this book. And she was reinventing grade school and high school, and did it differently. And she contacted a college professor, and she said, what type of people come to you after they graduate from our traditional school system? Are they creative people? And he said, well, they're good at following instructions. They're good at obeying, but maybe 1 in 1,000 can think for themselves. See, and I thought, well, is that just an accident? But maybe it was on purpose to create a system of worker bees, which is what Jeff teaches too. Get people to follow directions and make other people money, not have any resourcefulness themselves, any dreams, creative imagination. Let's just put that to sleep. That's dangerous stuff. It can make people start their own businesses instead of work for us. So part of it is our school system. But that is what the monthly events give us within network marketing. I hope that it's not just another thing you feel like you've got to go to, but that you realize, wow, this is free education that could take me much farther than a school can. This is awesome stuff. Tips for when you go to a monthly regional or any event. I don't know if they cost or the ones you go to, but any event, monthly regional or company convention, buy tickets for your team at that event for the next event. And they should always be selling them there. It motivates you to bring more people or to recruit more people, because now you spent the money. So that's sort of just a trick, a motivation. Cool things happen at events. You meet people that can eventually become a mastermind for you. You can meet your upline, downline, crossline, and you guys can learn to support each other, put on local meetings together, put on local open houses together. And I have 2 clients who were crossline, and they were accountability partners with each other and idea partners with each other. It was really cool to see them work together. They became really, really good friends. But yes, you can put on events together. You can find solutions to problems, and a lot of people become lifelong friends from going to these events. Getting people there can sometimes be a challenge. Again, see the best in them. I see you as a big player here. I see you getting there. You can do this. You can do this. And you can hold contests for people. You know, who can be the first to get their ticket, arrange the travel, who can bring the most people there and have a lunch for those people, of your front line maybe that brings the most team or something like that to an event, a monthly regional. You can use Facebook groups for logging in their commitment goals and how many people they're signed up to bring. You can ask them to help. And you can always, that will get them there. If you give them a job, will you be the greeter at the door? Will you be the MC? Will you be the person who sets up the chairs? Will you bring the person who brings this or that refreshment? That's a good way to get people there. Then they can't cancel at the last minute because they have a part, and it'll matter. And you can also say, there's someone that I'd like to introduce you to there. And that's another good way to have people kind of invested in coming. So, okay, we're just a little bit past the time, right? We can open it up now to hear your takeaways. So
what we're going to do is also shut off the recording before we do that. Any last thoughts, words?
Next time, number 9, which is the Tyndall Company Conventions, overlaps a little bit with this.
Yep, awesome.